Doom Eternal has a lot of content, but by now players have already mastered the combat loop and they are eager for more. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm a great Doom Eternal player by any stretch, but I still want to talk about the Doom Eternal updates that we need, or at least the ones that I want to see come into fruition. I'm going to restrict myself a bit with my wish list and only mention updates that don't really require any additional assets. Basically, saying that I want the Bruiser to return from Doom 3 Resurrection of Evil, for example, isn't going to fly here, as that'll take way too long to develop and isn't suitable for a quick update. The first update I want for Doom Eternal is more music tracks in the Fortress of Doom, as well as the ability to play those in the levels. I want to crank the music from E1M1 while I'm fighting demons, not just when I'm looking at all of my collectibles in the Fortress of Doom. I know that mixing the Fortress of Doom music and the sound effects in might be a little annoying, so I understand why they have not done it, but I would love to have playable music tracks in the actual gameplay. Having the Quake 2 soundtrack blasting in my ears while I'm killing monsters would be fantastic, and I hope to see this in a new update. Speaking of the Fortress of Doom, I want them to update its aesthetics. Give the Doomslayer some new books, some new trinkets, and give the Fortress of Doom a makeover. If id Software wants to go the extra mile, they could even allow players to customize the Fortress of Doom. Maybe they could let the player choose which books they want on the bookshelf. They could perhaps have custom skins for the ship, like how they have skins for the Slayer and some of the monsters, etc. If id Software wants people to spend time in the Fortress of Doom and look at everything it has to offer, they should let them customize it, or at least update it once in a while with more trinkets. There is an old DOS computer in the Fortress of Doom, and you can use it to play classic Doom 1 and 2. This is an excellent Easter egg, and you basically get 2 free games inside of Doom Eternal. For the Ancient Gods DLC, they should reward people with playable versions of Plutonia and TNT Evolution on the DOS computer. This would tie everything together and would be a great throwback for old school Doom fans. I say that this should be an Ancient Gods exclusive because the DLC is brutal and the difficulty is more akin to Final Doom. Perhaps make it so that if the player finishes the Ancient Gods and has collected all of the items in each level, you get a password to unlock Plutonia and TNT Evolution. That would be such a nice bonus for people who sought out the DLC and completed everything. On top of the Fortress of Doom stuff, the Repertorium is the prime example of wasted potential. You have to go there once in the campaign, and you never use it again. Maybe some players like to spend time down there, but I don't understand why if they do. If id Software added the feature to customize the Repertorium to your liking, that would give plenty of incentive to use it. Maybe you get to choose the monsters that spawn in, the look of the arena, maybe you can have the option to start with no weapons and you gradually need to pick them up, etc. The Repertorium could have been awesome, and it still can be with a future update, but I think as it stands right now, most players forgot it existed, and it's a shame. If I recall correctly, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order had a mode where you can select which enemies you want to fight, and then you can slug it out with them. That is awesome, and this freedom should be extended in Doom Eternal with the Repertorium, as there's no reason on why there's a lack of options. Hopefully there's an update that rectifies this, but to be fair, id Software is hard at work with the DLC, and I think that once they get the expansions out of the picture, they can then go ahead and add this kind of stuff. Speaking of extra modes, they recently added the Classic mode to the Super Gore Master level, which is a great step in the right direction. They also added Extra Life mode and Ultra Nightmare mode to the Master levels, but I want to see more of these novelty features. Many fans have been asking for Snap Map from Doom 2016 to return in Doom Eternal, but I don't see this happening at all. I don't know about you guys, but I only use Snap Map like once, and I don't really see a point in bringing it back. I know that the user-generated content in Doom 2016 was fantastic, but rebuilding this feature for Doom Eternal would be for so little gain. Instead, I hope that they focus on making brand new novelty modes, including my Easter egg hunt mode idea. The Easter egg hunt would be a mode where you're in a level and the goal is to not go to the end like normal, but instead to find all of the Funko Pops scattered in the map. There could be 3 difficulties, in which the easiest option is having all of the collectibles in plain sight, so they are pretty easy to collect, while the hardest would have them hidden in rather obscure locations. This Easter egg mode wouldn't alter the levels, but you are required to explore, and that's one aspect of Doom Eternal that I wish they expanded upon. While there is exploration in the game, it is still a rather linear experience, and while I'm fine with that, I want to find stuff, and I think this Easter egg hunt mode would be a nice addition for that. This mode would put exploration at the forefront, and while there still will be demons in your way, you have to beat them quickly in order to find each collectible in time. Along with this new mode, I want Slayer Gates to be replayable from the menus. I know that there's a concern that the Slayer Gates will lose their challenge if you can unlock them from the menu, but perhaps that issue would be eliminated if you make it so that they are replayable only if you beat the game on a certain difficulty. If you beat the game on Ultra Violence, I doubt you're going to be that surprised by the Slayer Gates difficulty on subsequent playthroughs, and they should be replayable from the menu for your leisure. People wanting to replay Slayer Gates is a sign that you have players wanting to play the most intense version of your game. They want to drive the fastest racetrack, so I don't see why you don't let them. We've talked about new modes, replaying Slayer Gates, and new Fortress of Doom goodies. But now let's dial it back to some of the smaller things that they can add to the game. Now they already have extra lives, which is a callback to Wolfenstein 3D, but I want them to go the extra mile and add a high score system. I have no idea how they would actually implement this, but having points in the game tally up over a single campaign run would make things very competitive, and it would drive players to get a high score. I know that's super arcadey, but Doom Eternal is an arcade shooter at heart, and it surprisingly takes quite a few cues from Wolfenstein in this regard. It embraces being a video game, and as I've said before in previous videos, Wolfenstein does the exact same thing, and the game's personality shines through. There are many parallels you can make with Wolfenstein 3D and Doom Eternal, but regardless, a point system would be a nice novelty for players to dive into. Perhaps you get bonuses at the end of a level for not taking any health damage, or getting certain glory kill animations to trigger, or how much you switch weapons, etc. Like I said, I have no idea how this high score system would work, but it would unify Doom Eternal players with them competing for the most points. Old school video game players love that kind of stuff, and Doom Eternal is an old school game at heart, so it makes perfect sense in my eyes. Of course, the people that want to blast through the game and not worry about points can do so, and this is admittedly for a more niche audience. A couple of other miscellaneous updates I would make include additional save files, because I think 3 is not enough, especially if you throw in all of these new game modes, and audio logs for the codex pages. I want to dive into the lore, but I want to do so while experiencing the game, and that's where audio logs would come in handy. id Software have gone through the trouble of writing these detailed codex entries, and I feel like people would be much more interested in them if you can turn on a voice that reads them out in the middle of combats. I know that fans of the lore already seek these pages out and will read them regardless, but I feel like in order to net in more people into the Doom Eternal lore, they should have an audiobook option. Those have been the updates that we, or at least I, need. Doom Eternal is already an expansive game, but with my suggestions, I feel like this game would have even more of a shelf life than it already does. So yeah, thanks for watching.